Now for our feature story of the day. On-chain analyst Willy Woo says Bitcoin can skyrocket to 650,000 this market cycle top if this specifically happens. So let's break it down, and let's start with the tweet he just recently shared. And shout out to Willy Woo. I'm a fan, always have been. He wrote 5 hours ago, the new Bitcoin ETFs bring price targets of 91,000 at the bear market bottom. Not too shabby. And 650,000 at the bull market top once ETF investors have fully deployed, according to the asset manager recommendations. These are very conservative numbers. Bitcoin will beat the gold cap when ETFs have completed their role. And I think earlier we said the gold not gold ETFs, but the gold market cap right now is over 15 trillion. He also said, note, these are not targets for the cycle. It takes a long time for capital deployments to complete. Well, thank you for the asterisk there. Back of the envelope calculations, he wrote number 1, 100 trillion managed by asset managers. They generally have a 2% allocation recommendation. See Fidelity. This number will rise over time, but today it's a 2 trillion allocation into Bitcoin. Number 2, Bitcoin currently holds 561 million of investments. We can measure this on chain. New total will bring it to 2.56 trillion of investment. Number 3, we can use the MVRV to calculate market cap versus money invested. This ratio is 5x the bull market tops and 0.7x in bear market bottoms. Number 4, this translates to capitalizations of 12.8 trillion and 1.8 trillion respectively, or 650,000 or 91,000 per Bitcoin. Number 5, I've excluded other self-custody inflows. So this is absolutely a lower bound estimation. Self-custody inflows are way bigger right now. And number 6, Bitcoin will certainly exceed gold capitalization by the time asset manager capital has deployed. Gold went on a 12-year bull run when its ETF was approved, and now is Bitcoin's turn. Let's go. So there you have it. And let's dive deeper into the article published off the back of that tweet with the prediction. The headline reads, Bitcoin can skyrocket to 650,000 if this happens, according to Willy Woo. There you go. Now, to substantiate his claim, the Bitcoin analyst elaborated some calculations based on allocation recommendations, self-custody inflows, the market value to realized value, which is the MVRV, which is the ratio between the market value of Bitcoin and its realized value. Wu also explained that asset managers like Fidelity are advocating for modest crypto portfolio allocations of just 2%. He makes a good point because we have seen a study published, it was a couple of years ago, and I covered it here on the channel many times. BlackRock's recommended Bitcoin allocation investment into the biddies is like 84.9%. So you do the math. And so this is very modest allocation at 2%. Now, such firms manage roughly 100 trillion, which leaves up to 2 trillion to go to Bitcoin. That's if it was only 2%. The number will increase over time as Bitcoin sees more adoption. Facts. Bitcoin currently holds over 561 billion of investment, so adding the 2 trillion will bring the total to 2.56 trillion, significantly enlarging the assets ecosystem. The figure could be much more if self-custody inflows are even considered. Wu says self-custody inflows are much bigger at the moment, hence the 2.56 trillion target is the lower bound estimate. Now let's discuss exceeding gold's market cap using the MVRV ratio to calculate market capitalizations versus money invested. The target investment figure would be multiplied by 5 in bull market tops and 0.7 in bear season bottoms. This would leave the crypto market with a capitalization of 12.8 trillion and a top of 1.8 trillion at the bottom, or $91,000 and $650,000 per Bitcoin. Wu clarified the Bitcoin is not expected to hit the 91,000 and 650,000 targets during the cycle. As such, capital deployments take a long time. However, Bitcoin will inevitably exceed gold's market cap when the ETFs have achieved their full potential. Quoting him again, these are very conservative numbers. Bitcoin will beat the gold cap when the ETFs have completed their role. Bitcoin will certainly exceed gold capitalization by the time the asset manager capital has deployed. Gold went on a 12-year bull run when its ETF was approved. Now it's Bitcoin's turn. Let's freaking go. So what are your thoughts on Bitcoin hitting a target of 90,000 to 650,000 as outlined by on-chain analysts Willy Woo? I can see personally Bitcoin reaching a bear scenario of 222,000 this year, as high as 750,000 or anywhere in between. So it's going to be a very interesting year this year and next year, actually both years, as typically we hit the cycle peak the year preceding the halving, but many people are saying this halving is different. For example, the major difference, clearly, we didn't have the institutional FOMO in 2021 when we tapped the 69,000 all-time high. Also consider that 2021 was a long time ago. That's like 3 years ago. We tapped 69, and right now we're trading at a discount of 64,000. So many would say this bull market is just getting started. I mean, at least to the stock to flow, it showed you on March 1st, we printed the first red dot, which signifies we're officially in bull market territory, expecting many more red dots being printed this year and next year. Another major difference with this cycle, for the first time in Bitcoin history, we broke the previous all-time high pre-halving. That's right. We broke the all-time high a few times already. We tapped 69,000 and then we tapped 70,000, and the current all-time high is $73,800. So previous cycles, the three previous cycles that come before us, 2012, 2016, and 2020, it always took us post-halving to break the previous all-time high. So many would say for those reasons, things are much different. But I want to know your thoughts. How high can you see the Bitcoin price climbing realistically for this cycle, 2024, 2025? Can you see a 220,000 biddy? Can you see 500,000? What are your thoughts? Let me know. I'm going to read these comments out loud. Hillbilly Will says Bitcoin starts to slog to 100,000. It's unstoppable. Carol says I can see 650. Send it. Love it, Carol. Cheers to that. What good does it do if you never sell, says Bill Hokey. Well, I guess we all have different goals in life. My goal is to, pass on generational wealth to my children so that she can pass it on to her children so they're not enslaved, right? And they can live a freedom lifestyle. Whereas, some people have goals to maybe buy a house. JV already owns a house, right? So it all depends upon your personal goals. I personally feel it won't make any sense to sell Bitcoin. Even if it was $1 million, hypothetically speaking right now, if you had the opportunity to borrow against it or do some creative things, would you really sell it, right? The question I pose you is, why would you sell your Bitcoin for the inferior fiat money? What are you going to do with the fiat money? Now, if you just have money you need burning a hole in your pocket, you need to buy something with it, you have some attachment to something physical, whether it's a car, a house, maybe you want to pay off a loan, maybe, debt, whatever it may be. And shout out to Haran for subscribing to the pod. I totally understand that, right? However, teach their own. We're all in a different situation. So JV, no plans of selling. However, who knows? We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll want a new house eventually, 10 years or something like that. And I will borrow against it or something. I don't know. I can't predict the future. But one thing is for certain, I think most Bitcoiners have no intention of ever selling. They just want it. You can use it as collateral, Bitcoin being the most pristine form of collateral. And eventually all the banks will want your pristine collateral. Mark my words. They don't want your fiat. Fiat is useless at the end of the day. So just me thinking out loud here, but let me know your thoughts. 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. $1 equals 22 cents. That is the perfect example right there. 1 Bitcoin will always be equivalent to 1 Bitcoin. 15 years ago, 1 Bitcoin was equal to 1 Bitcoin. 1,500 years from now, 1 Bitcoin will be equivalent to 1 Bitcoin. However, $1 is 22 cents. Those who save in fiat, what do we call them, folks? You already know. Don't make me play the jammy jam.
But most of the people who are buying assets at some point want to sell the assets at a profit.
Nope. 175,000 top. A lot of ETF buyers will have weak hands, says Expos John. Conservative, 150,000. The bulls, 275,000, says Mankey. Thanks for sharing. I like your prediction of 222,000 JV. I'm banking on it. I sold my carpet cleaning business a few years ago. Semi-retired now. Congratulations, Don George. Let's go.
People that use fiat currency.
Deflationary asset into the future. Many don't sell with the big profits. Facts. Preach, says VZ. Wait until the U.S. banks will allow us to borrow against the biddies. HODL mode will free you from the government. Fiat. That's right. Hodling has so many advantages. So many advantages. Not even funny, right?
As a store of value.
You got that right, Jennifer. What do we call them, folks?
We call them core.
$1 equals 22 cents. Tell them.
We call them core.